Magriet, welcome. Barry, I'm just trying to see here if I can get your... I'm not sure which one is better for you to display your camera.
So you can try open both of them and then I'll close the one down.
Okay, I don't seem to have that option here. Can you check on your side?
It says I can't because it's disabled by you, so you need to enable me.
Okay, let's see this. How about now? See more people.
There we go.
Excellent.
Okay.
I'll do the same.
There we go. We're in the game, I think. Okay. Right, ready to go when you are, Marlon. Just mute myself.
So thank you very much, everyone. Welcome to this year's first webinar of Entrepreneurial Hangout. We have a number of people that are brand new to this format. For those of you who don't know, Barry Mitchell is one of the best trainers from my perspective, and in terms of sales and in the country, especially training hundreds of businesses and thousands of entrepreneurs in the art of sales and mastering oneself to really create a great business, a big business. I mean, we all, as entrepreneurs, we struggle out there to really generate proper sales, to generate teams, to sell, to build teams and create and teach those teams so that they can help us build businesses without us. So the whole purpose of this webinar is really to try and get more feedback from you and try and help you. We don't have a specific agenda. Barry really likes to have an open format and like try and help you and connect with you. And the idea around this is really just to bring your questions and connect with everybody and especially with Barry. So Barry, are you ready? Are you ready to jump in?
Yeah, I am. So hey, Marlon, how you doing? And hello to everybody else. And yeah, I suppose Happy New Year, although we're already, I don't know, flipping 8% of the way through the year. Man, it goes fast. Like a friend of mine often says, the older you get, the faster it goes, like a toilet paper roll, the closer you get to the end. So, well, yeah, great to be with you. Those of you that are on for the first time, welcome. And it's, yeah, I just, someone told me the other day that some people from the past, from your past are gonna come into your business and your life again. So, you know, like one of our mentors says, you know, all the woo-woo stuff. Well, when you start, how many of you realize that when you start doing things and you're on mission and you're on purpose, people arrive? And when I look on this call, there's some people who I haven't spoken to in a long time. One of them's Odwa. So Odwa, welcome back. And great to have you with us. And then a really good friend of mine from Zim, Debbie. Deb's great to have you here. And yeah, we're thinking of you guys and praying for you in Zim, and hopefully you guys are well. And for everybody else, those of you that are brand new, for the first time, welcome. Those of you that are regulars, great to see you back. And the first question I want to ask you is, do you know where you are going in 2019? Or how many of you have actually just started from where you left off and you just keeping going, hoping that something's going to change? So as Marlon says, tonight's call, I've got a few things that I want to talk about and want to share with you. But let's just kick off. I love having questions from people on a webinar around, sales is one thing, entrepreneurship is the other one, and creating wealth in terms of financial literacy, creating wealth and that sort of thing. So if you have any questions that you'd want to put to me, I will do whatever I can to share some of, I suppose, my experience with you and to help you get those answered. So please, I'm going to give you 30 seconds or so. If you have a question, just type it in and we'll get started with some of those. So yeah, let's kick off. Who's gonna come up with the first question? What's something in your business in selling and in connecting with people and building relationships, maybe in like I said, in finance and money that's really worrying you? Why don't you just type it in and I will do whatever I can in order to answer it. So Kevin Nido, who says, I need 100,000 in 30 days. And then he says, "Slow." So Kevin, that is a great one. So the question is, what do you think you need to do to get 100,000 in 30 days? For me, the answer is simple. You got to find something that you can sell, get out and sell it. Now it sounds, it might sound sort of well, that's the truth. What do you have access to in order to sell? Who do you know? What opportunities do you have? What ideas do you have? And go from there. So yeah, Marlon, let's open if Kevin's happy to that. Let's open Kevin's mic and Kevin, yeah, let's engage in this and have a chat, because I think it's a really important question, or comment. It might be 10K, it might be $1 million, but how many of you are holding yourself back because of money, or because you really need something and that stops you from moving? So Kevin, if you're open, do you want to fire away on that question a little bit, and maybe we can
it's simple, Barry. Can you hear me?
Shed some light.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
It's simple. I think it's just a matter of cash flow. It's a horrible time of the year. December and January, generally very dry months in terms of business. And April comes around pretty quickly, and that's a very short month. So you essentially got February and March to make things happen. So I'm looking for some ideas on how to generate some very quick cash flow.
Okay, excellent. So Kevin, what is your business?
I'm in financial services broadly, yeah.
Okay, so you're in the financial services game. Okay,
I do have a product.
Okay, so
my
what's
product
your product?
is a financial services product, a little bit complex, but it does generate money. The problem is the wheels turn a little slowly in terms of the cycle, of the sales cycle. And in these days and times, you can't just go and force something down people's throats when they cash trap themselves. And I don't want to digress, so I don't want to be looking for another product and obviously be distracted. So I want to zone in and try and focus and obviously try and achieve this outcome. And maybe some ideas around that. Right? Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about that. So the first thing is, let's just go to that word cash flow. And, when it comes to business, this for me is the most important thing. In the last sort of 24 months, I've been very blessed to have done quite a lot of work directly with Robert Kiyosaki. And the one thing I hear him, he talks about all the time, the two most important words when it comes to business, when it comes to finance, when it comes to investing, when it comes to creating wealth, is cash flow. And the reality is this, is cash always flows. For most people, sadly, cash is always flowing or flows in the wrong direction. or there's a much bigger outflow than there is inflow. And Kevin, I don't think you're definitely not unique in this. I see this in many businesses. What happens is we ramp it up towards the end of the year, run, across the finish line, and then we're down tools, and for a couple of weeks, have a breather, and then we got to start getting momentum back up all over again. So, just one of the learnings out of that is, with that in mind, so this is not going to help you for your need right now. However, with that in mind, those of you that find yourself in that situation right now, what you got to start doing is you got to start planning for next year. So that's a cycle. So the question is, what do you need to do in order to be able to create cash reserves, to create additional cash flow, so that allows you to be able to flow through those months? So start thinking about that now, because if you're like me, that flipping December is going to come around way quicker than we can imagine. So start planning for that now. The other thing is, so Kevin, what I do is I hear you say, I have a product right now, I really want to get focused on the product. So two sides to that. So one is this. So, what are your numbers? And what I hear is the sales cycle is pretty long. And that I understand. But what are if you understand your conversion ratios, if you understand your numbers, just if you're still open, how many people do you have to speak to in order to sell one product?
I work on the universal constant, Barry. So at the end of the day, I want to reach 100 people, and if I'm successful with around 30%, I'd be doing okay.
Okay.
When you're in full flow, and the sales pitch and all of that is coming through nicely, you may have a slightly higher conversion. But obviously, people come on board and then fall away and that sort of thing. So yeah, you can sort of earmark it or tag it at 30%.
Okay, so there's one thing I believe in numbers is, people say to me, what's a good conversion rate? My response is, whatever your conversion rate is. I have heard this, what's the universal norm, all those type of things. And the reality is this, is as each individual, what I would suggest is if you're not doing this, you need to learn how to monitor and manage your own numbers. Because the norm might be 30%, but where does that norm come from? The question is, what are your numbers? So, Kevin, for you, if you know your exact numbers, it makes it a lot easier to then turn on. So let's just say that your number's 30%. So what is the average transactional value per client, and how much would you make per client that you close in a month?
I'd say a good average per sale or return on a client is about 10K. It could bump up to about 15K. So we need anywhere between 10 or 15 people to make that happen. And in my case, if I'm using 30% as my number, then we'd need to be speaking to about 45 people or so. So or thereabout. Yeah. Well, yeah,
you
45.
need to be speaking to 45 people. So the question is, the first step is, right now, in wanting to generate 100K, do you have a list of 45 people that you've written down?
Yeah, we have access to the list. The problem is not everyone is available all of the time. So we try to go hard at it, especially at this type of the month, you get shunned, or this type of time of the year. It's always, let's park it until next month and that sort of thing.
So Kevin, what I'm hearing is what we call your little voice. It is, so one of the biggest things that holds us back in business and sales is this little thing, is that little voice that comes up. And so when I hear you talking, and all of us have a little voice, those of you that have been around me for a while know that one of the key things that we teach and work around is getting through that little voice that holds us back. So when I hear you talking, Kevin, one of the things I hear is if I do 45 people, I have a list. However, but they won't. One of the most important things in sales is, can you learn how to get through that little voice? Because when you get through that little voice, because the reality is this, is people will always shun us in sales. People will always have objections. People will always have no's. People, and the deal is sales is an action-driven game. And when you're really, really just focused on turning out the action, one thing that I've learned is that magic happens. What happens with a lot of people is we find all the reasons why with our little voice that we can't actually do what we want to do. We know what we want to do, but then we find all those reasons. Well, if I do this, if I do that, that's not going to happen. What happens? That just slows us down. It makes us procrastinate. It allows us to take off, the foot off the gas, and suddenly we're a couple of weeks down, and we haven't got that. So, the first thing is learning to get through that little voice, making a commitment to just do the action that's needed to be done. So, for me, Kevin, if you have a list of 100 people, for example, how quickly do you want to get through those 100 people? So, could you make 25 calls a day? Could you make 50 calls a day? Could you make 100 calls a day? It all depends on how badly you want to do it and what time you prepare to put into it. But if you believe that if you made 100 calls, you would set up 50 appointments. If you set up 50 appointments, you would have 30 appointments. And if you have 30 appointments, you'd close 10 people. Then the question is, how quickly can you get on that phone to connect with 100 people? So for a lot of people, we'll make 100 calls, but it'll take us 10 weeks to make 100 calls rather than 1 day or 2 days. So we extend the whole period. So one of the things in generating and creating momentum is really putting the foot on the gas as hard as you can, as quick as you can. And what happens is through what we start doing, that's when we start generating things like luck. Why? Because the more people you get a hold of, the luckier you get. It's pretty simple. So in terms of that, Kevin, if you really want to stick at that, at selling that one product of yours, my question is how quickly can you get on? How quickly can you get into that list of people to book appointments, and how quickly can you get in front of them? Because the reality is, some people are going to say yes, some people are going to say no, some people are going to fob you off. That's okay. You understand that. So when you put that aside, and the only thing you do is focus on getting on that phone and grinding through the calls and grinding through appointments, the results will come. Does that make sense, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. I mean, those are some really good pointers right there. I think we kind of know all of that with respect to what you're saying, but it's always great to hear from the other side. It's always great to hear, you're quite right. It's this little voice in your head that plays a whole lot of games, But thanks for that. I appreciate that. I think there's good information right there.
Yeah. Kevin, you say some important words. We know all that, and you're 100% correct. The problem is that often we know all that, but we just don't action it because of that little voice. I've been in sales nearly 30 years and worked with maybe hundreds, maybe even thousands of different salespeople. And the one thing that I often see is people say, yeah, I know that. And I go, okay, great. So if you know that, why are your results not coming up? And then what they'll do is tell me all the reasons why the results are not coming up, rather than the reason, hey, I know that and I made 100 calls and this is the result I got. What we'll get is, well, I couldn't make 100 calls because of, well, I couldn't do this. So the reality is it's learning how to shut that little voice off and just get down to the task at hand. At just getting it done. It's like getting fit. Most people know how to get fit. Get your butt in a gym. Get on a treadmill, start walking, start exercising, start walking around the block. The other side of it is, if you want to get fit and lose weight, stop eating so much junk. Right? Anyway, in my world, that's how it works. But what will happen is we'll justify why we can't, yet we know what we need to do until we actually just make that decision, just to focus on doing the action. Now, I sat with a client today, and he's starting up a business. And 2 weeks ago, the task I gave him was he has a new product competing in a pretty competitive market. When it's a new product that he's launching himself, and it's competing in a pretty competitive market. And the one action I said to him is, look, how many small shops can you call on in the next week? So he gave me a number. I said, great. So he says, what about, I said, don't worry about what about anything else. Just get out and go and call on those shops when we met today, he called on all those shops. Did he do any business with those shops? Very, very little. But what happened, what came out of that, out of those actions, was through that action, he met someone that's in the game, that distributes in a certain area, that's interested in talking to him about his product, that he had to drive 4 hours out of Joburg to go see them, and took some sample. They bought all his samples. He made a sale to them. That wouldn't have happened if he actually hadn't have just got out and physically called on those shops. And it's a thing. So one of the guys that a lot of the stuff that we teach and study is from a guy called Buckminster Fuller. Some of you might have heard of Bucky Fuller. And Bucky Fuller teaches the concept of precession. Something precedes something else. And if you just focus on doing the one thing, other things will come from it. The reality is this, is we find all the reasons why we can't. We find all the reasons why, well, this is not going to work. When I did it last year, whereas truly when we're brutally honest with ourselves, and we actually just say, just shut up the little voice, just stop, just quieten it down, and we actually just sit down and hit the task at hand. The reality is that the results are always different to what we think, but it's that justification. So thank you, Kevin. Great contribution, great question. So let's go to, I saw Debbie had a question. Let's go to Debs. Debs, your question is, being in Zimbabwe where people have a scarcity syndrome, where do you set the benchmark in terms of charging for your program? Debs, that's a great question. And scarcity syndrome is not only in Zimbabwe, it exists just as big in South Africa and anywhere else in the world. And those of you that know me well know that one of the things that I do a lot of is read. I believe reading is a key component. And the more time I've spent being mentored by Robert Kiyosaki, the more I realize that guy reads tons. And this year I've read a couple of phenomenal books. And the one book that I recently just started reading in the last couple of days is an awesome book called Killing Sacred Cows. Some of you might have read it, heard of it. And Killing Sacred Cows really is dispelling myths that keep people poor, middle class, and don't allow us to create wealth. And one of those myths is this myth around scarcity and abundance. So scarcity is the belief that resources are limited and the world is a stage for a zero-sum game of accumulation. In zero-sum game, anything that another wins is no longer available to all others playing the game. Further, these winnings are not replaced or transformed into anything of equivalent or greater value that remains in the game available to other players. In scarcity, ownership by another means the loss of opportunity for self. So there's not only a problem, as I said in Zoom, it's a huge problem here. People are so worried that if somebody else gets what they want, they're not going to be able to get it. And scarcity is a massive problem, because the reality is we actually live in an abundant world. The standard of living today is, for the average individual, is way, way higher than the standard of living 100 years ago for some of the top individuals, for the highest echelon of wealth. So, and the other reason why scarcity is a myth is because we have been given a mind that allows us to create. And when you allow your mind to be creative and you allow your imagination to create things, the human mind keeps growing. But what we've been taught time and time again is that it is scarce. And so in Sacred Cows, he dispels that. He really dispels this myth of scarcity. And those of you that have been to the Sales and Leadership Mastery program that I run, we do an exercise in there, and we do a game in there that shows people how limited human beings think in terms of what we need, that we think we need in order to create what we want. And the reality is, everything that you need is right in front of you. It is. But what we're doing is we're allowing all the other stuff to take control of where we're at and justify why we do what we do. So one of the things he said in his book is far more insidious and dangerous, however, are the manifestations of scarcity in our own quiet thoughts that we don't verbalize or try to express. If we did, we might recognize their falsehood. But since we don't, they're like quietly polluting our minds and crippling our ability to think and act creatively. Scarcity is distinguished by pride, hurt feelings, jealousy, anger, selfishness, conditional love and conditional acceptance, doubt, fear, destruction, misery, depression, sadness, lack of control, inability to feel and express love, extremes of action, thought, emotion, irresponsibility, disrespect towards ourselves and others, mercilessness, and all other forms of destructive thought and action. Scarcity is destructive behavior. So you know, if you operate in a scarce mindset, you'll struggle to create more, because your mind says to you that if somebody else has, I can't have, so I need to take it away from them, rather than saying, what is it that we can do with the resources that we have? Resources are infinite. The planet is infinite. Yet we're taught that we live in this finite world. And when it comes to business, true capitalists who deeply understand prosperity don't operate a business in order to put another institution out of business. They bring products and services to the market in order to serve others. So it's about creating something to serve others. And you know, when you understand certain things like velocity of money, velocity of money is if Debbie, if I spend $1 with you and you spend $1 with that same dollar with somebody else, and they spend it with somebody else, that $1 is creating wealth, which means it's creating abundance from $1. But people will, with the scarce mindset, will tell you there's only $1. But that $1 can go through hundreds of hands and create hundreds of products and returns for a lot of people, if that makes sense. So let's go back to your question. Where do you set the benchmark in terms of charging for your program? Well, pretty simple. What are you worth? You know, so the first step is what are you worth? And then the next part is, can you sell your worth? Now, obviously there's certain things to look at. If you know, the programs that I charge for a program here in South Africa, I might not be able to charge exactly the same in Zimbabwe, but I would charge pretty close. I might have to work harder because maybe the potential customer base doesn't have that amount of money. So all those type of things come in. But the reality is this: if people see value in what you have, people will pay for it. If that's the real thing, it's the exchange of value. So right now in Zim, in your program, helping people shift through this scarcity mindset, and get into abundance, helping them shift through this thing that there's nothing they can do is a really needed training. The question is, how many people are you going to have to speak to get people in the door? And that comes back to what I was saying to Kevin, is you're going to have to measure your numbers. And when it comes to sales, your numbers in Harare might be very different to our numbers in Joburg. Volume of people, amount of money that's out there, all that sort of stuff. But it doesn't mean that you can't put 50 people in a room. The difference is you might just have to speak to 500, whereas maybe in South Africa, to put 50 people in a room, I might have to speak to 200. Okay. So, and then the other thing is how convicted are you in your own value? So there's this. Does that make sense?
Yes, perfect sense, Barry. Thank you.
Awesome. Any comments on that?
Well, firstly, I just want to say that to people that are listening is that what you have done for me has been extraordinary. So I just want to thank you for everything that you've taught me. And what you've taught me, I'm putting into practice, and it's working. And the main thing is that little voice that has been massive in my life. So once you've got over that, Barry, things just open up, and I want to thank you for that.
Hey, pleasure, Debs. It's so good having you on this call. But the reality is this: does that little voice ever go away?
No, it's always there to some degree.
Yeah, because the reality is the bigger the game you want to play, the bigger the little voice that you have to overcome. So as you move into new spheres, into new games, that as your being becomes bigger, as the game that you want to play becomes bigger, so new challenges come up, which means new little voices surface. So this is, the game of life and the game of growing and the game of change, and it is a continual journey of growing yourself, getting through that little voice. And that's the beauty of it, is that the bigger the game you want to play, the bigger the little voice you have to overcome. But the power in that is it's in your hands. Too many people are sitting back saying, I'm a victim. There's nothing I can do. The reality is most people are not actually working on that little voice themselves. They're not. They're at effect and not at cause. So what you've done in Zoom, and it's been so great watching your progression, because in one of the toughest economies on this continent, you've got out, you've trained, you put people in rooms, you coaching people, all that sort of stuff. And the reality is this: I work with people in South Africa where we have an amazing market in this country, and we're an incredible economy and opportunities. And I work with trainers, and trainers tell me, "Oh no, I can't put people in a room." The reality is this: that's not true. It just comes down to the voice. So 100%, it comes back to that. So well done, great question. Thank you.
Thanks.
So let's go to Michael. So Michael says, when you start your own business, you do everything yourself. So one tends to drop a lot of balls. Some of them are important. Yeah, how many of you on this call have dropped a lot of balls? How many of you are still dropping balls? How many of you have a team and still drop balls? So yeah, so Michael, we do drop a lot of balls. The key component is are we focused in what is important and what are the key drivers in our business, or are we focused on being busy and doing a whole lot of stuff that might not even add value to us? So I know that in the last 12 months, one of my big shifts is in my business and in my existence is being more and more focused on what are the key things that I can control in terms of my input and what I can drive in terms of production and revenue. And once I am became really clear on that, I get focused on certain actions and activities that I'm in control of. Then what I do is I started putting a team around me who start picking up the ball and running with other things. Now the reality is this: they're either going to run with them or they're not. Now there's a whole context around that, and obviously it's the art of building a team, creating vision, mission, all those type of things, attracting the right people, creating the right systems. You got to work on those. But in simple terms, you start attracting the right people, and then you've got to trust that those people are going to go out and do what they say they're going to do, and either deliver or not. What happens is, with a lot of small to medium-sized business owners, when you start your own business, that's where the hard part comes. If you want to build a team around you, then you don't allow them to go out and make mistakes and do what they need to do. So go back, look at yourself when you first started. If you employed you, would you allow you to do what you do? Probably not. The question is, can you allow people to grow like that, guide them, mentor them, and that's when you really start building a team. I think in my business, and Marlon might even be able to wade in on this, but in my business, I'm very tolerant of mistakes, very tolerant of errors, and I allow people to do them. The one thing that I just don't really like and don't really want to tolerate is repetitive mistakes and repetitive problems. But my team knows this: if you're going to do something, get out there, put everything you have, and there's two options. It's either going to work or it's not going to work. And so some of you might have, when Robert Kiyosaki was out here in December, I did an event with him, and we did a 3.5-hour event on a Monday evening. And I sat down with him for lunch on the Monday afternoon, and the very first thing he said to me is, "Barry, are you prepared to fail tonight?" And that was it. It set the context for where we're going. We've been, for the last 2 years, we've been working on some really exciting programs. We launched a program 18 months ago called Awaken Your Financial Genius, and that's followed on by a program called Get Real, which Robert's going to come out and teach in May, which is super exciting. But in that program in December, we were really launching the program that follows in May. And it was pretty simple. If no one gets up or no one expresses an interest or no one speaks to us afterwards, then no one's interested. So the reality is, if no one's interested, well, we try, we move on, we do something else, but we don't beat ourselves up. We just keep going. But the reality was, you know, both of us were prepared to get out there, do what we thought was the right stuff, and see what happened, and be prepared to fail. Most people are not prepared to allow people to fail. So Marlon, I don't know if you want to make a comment on that in terms of the culture in our business around making mistakes and learning.
Thanks, Barry. I think there was a lot. There's been a lot of learnings in that, and yes, you have been very tolerant of mistakes as we have grown, as we have had to push through, because also we're trying a lot of different stuff, and that freedom, that allowing us the freedom to get what we need to get done, and then sort of that feedback, that constant being the big learning that we've had in our team is that need for constant contact and feedback. The way we've worked over the last year and a half has dramatically changed. So the levels at which we're learning then compared to what we're learning now has sped up quite a lot.
Excellent. So I think one of the things that I heard from Marlon is this word learning. So one of the things that we have in our organization, we're a learning organization. Well, if we weren't a learning organization, then we wouldn't be a teaching organization. So our organization is really focused on teaching, but in order to teach, you've got to be a learning organization. So we invest a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of energy in the people around us, and allowing them to learn, go on programs. You know, we're always discussing those type of things. So Michael, we're going to drop balls. The question is, what lessons did you learn from dropping those balls, and how do you move on? Look, 12 years ago, and I think that's when I first met you, Michael, around about then, I launched a business with Blair Singer called Sales Partners, and 3 years later, I defranchised, and I was 1 to 1.5 million rand in a hole. That's a big ball to drop. Would I do it again? Hell yes. Not with what I know now, because I would do it differently, but I would have. If I could do it all over again, I would walk the same path, because I got some unbelievable lessons out of that. And dropping the ball is making mistakes. As long as you prepare to fail fast, fail forward, keep moving, learn, keep moving, learn. And but in terms of acquiring knowledge, in today's world, in the amount of knowledge that's there, and the amount of people that are out that are teaching, and the people that you have the ability to connect with, it intrigues me why people aren't prepared to really get involved and learn from people that have made those mistakes, because they're there, and they can save us so much heartache if we just prepared to be teachable. So part of that is who you're surrounding yourself with, who you're getting advice from, who's mentoring you and coaching you, who's training you and teaching you, who's guiding you along the way. Are they real teachers? Are they people that have done what they're going to teach you to do, or are they people that just thought up some theories and can teach but haven't got it? So it's important to surround yourself with the right people to get the right advice, and that will save you a lot of time and effort. So I'll give an example. I've had this training business for the last 12 years, and started off with a franchise, and the core part was training. And when I pulled out of the franchise, I kept the training business going, and I kept working with Blair, and then I worked with Blair for 12 years, and through that really threw myself in to learning the art of experiential training and experiential teaching with the whole aim of being able to master that. Made a lot of mistakes on the way. Now what we have is we've launched a group of trainers. We have 12 trainers in South Africa, which who are now teaching those tools and techniques, so they can also teach and train in the way that we teach and train. But one of the great things is all the mistakes that I make, or that I had made in the past, I don't have to make, because I can guide them down down a road that they don't have to do that, which means they can dramatically shorten their time to success. I don't want them to take a decade to build their training business to create success. I want them to be able to do it in 2, 3, 4 years. So, you know, for example, talk about Debbie. When I worked with Debbie, that's one of the things Debbie was exceptionally good at. Barry, tell me what I need to do, and she went out and did it. And tell me, why I don't want to do that because of this. And she's like, well, get out there and make it happen. So, you know, surround yourself with the right people that can give you advice. But don't be scared to drop the ball. If you drop the ball, you pick it up, keep going. You know, or like in rugby, you drop the ball, maybe it goes forward, you get a penalty, give away, or, you know, give away a scrum. You know, in business, it's ruck down, dig deep, pull through it, get the lessons, and move on. So, so thank you, Michael, for that. So, let's go to the next one. Charles, you said, Barry, are your bases in South Africa? Charles, we have a group of trainers pretty much around the world, but I am based in South Africa, and yeah, so we are in South Africa. If you need some more information, just type in here to Marlon or go to our Uncovering Greatness website, and that'll give you a lot of information there. So, Michael, your question is, how can one find help, and where would one advertise for help? Michael, one thing you've got to be clear on what type of person you want. Be clear on the environment that you're having, and then you go out and actively start seeking people. And, you know, for some people, you're going to bring them in, they're not going to work out. You know, one of my lessons is don't hold on to the wrong people. If they're the wrong people and they're not working out, move them on fast. It's not easy, but you need to do it, because so that's one of the hardest things of building teams. And that's an area for many small business owners that they struggle with. They bring someone in, they're doing a job, it's helping them a little bit, but it's not what they want. And what it ends up is just becoming a big frustration. So, you know, in terms of that, bring people in, be clear on what you expect them to do, give them the tools, give them the training, you know, create the right environment, let them run. But if they're not the right people, just move them on fast. Okay, so Odwa would like a recap on the 6-step sales process and the Teach Teams sell approach, advising a service business on improving their sales process. So Odwa, the 6-step sales process. 1, find customers. And importantly, you got to find customers with money. Okay, so who's your target market? Who's your key customer? Do you know who they are? Are you clear on those people? That's really the top of the funnel, driving your marketing engine. You know, so it's an area where a lot of people often spend quite a bit or throw quite a bit of energy, but they're not clear on exactly who their target market is. So, you know, the more work you can do on that, the easier it becomes in sales, because you start talking to the right people. When you're talking to the right people, then, you know, the right people connect with who you are. So, you know, at Uncovering Greatness, our core customer base is entrepreneurs. That's who we can't teach employees. No, not at all. But our core focus base and the people that will really connect with us and move through the process of working with us through our various programs around sales, leadership, entrepreneurship, you know, wealth and finance and marketing, those people will really connect to those programs. So first step is find customers, and find customers with money. Find the right customers. Second step, once you find customers, you know, like Kevin, you have a list of customers. That's great. I just realized that a list of customers sitting on my wall does absolutely nothing, and I've got to take action. So you know, next step is you've got to approach in contact. How are you approaching in contact? How are you getting in front of them? How are you getting your brand to them? How are you connecting with them? You know, so for small businesses, the quickest way, in fact, for most businesses and most salespeople, the quickest way to get out there and approach in contact is start hitting the streets, knocking on doors, picking up the phone, and doing it with repetitive, high levels of energy, and drive it from there. Step number 3, to approach in contact. Step number 3, you've got to pitch and present. So you've got to be clear on what you're presenting. And, you know, one of the things that we teach is it's all about them. It's not about you. And interestingly, I've just, one of the books that I read to start this year is a book called Building a Story Brand. And a great book around marketing. Those of you, honestly, if you want to learn and you want some real valuable insight into creating the right language to drive your marketing language, get hold of this book, read it, Building a Story Brand. Really, really powerful. But a key component, I teach it in sales, that the sale is all about them, it's not about you. And what Donald Miller talks about in this book is that the whole aim of marketing is to make your customer the hero, not you the hero. And, you know, so in marketing and sales, it's all about them. One of the things that I see when people are marketing, when people are connecting, is they talk too much about themselves. Look how good I am. Look how it's not about us. It's about the client. You make the client the hero. You connect with them. You listen to them. You get in their world. You solve their problems. That's when you really start creating results. Most people are not. They're out there. They're pitching and going, this is what I can do for you because I'm this and I'm that and we can do this. You lost the sale. You've got to get into their world. So, you know, pitching and presenting is a critical component. And typically what will happen is they will say no. That's great. I want them to say no. It's just an objection. You know, so I don't have any money. Not interested in right now. Wrong time. New year. What? Okay. The fundamental thing around an objection is that 99% of the time, the first objection is never really the real objection. If it is, you want to learn how to get through it and connect with them to find out if it is the real objection. If it's not the real objection, well, you want to be able to take them through and find out what the real objection is. And, you know, so handling objections is key. Taking people from a no to a yes without convincing them, without begging them, getting in their world, finding out and connecting value. The reason most people object is they just don't see value. And people buy based on value. So, so once you take them from a no to a yes, step number 5 is you have to close it. Once you close, follow up, drive referrals, testimonials, take them back to the top of the cycle. So that's what we call the 6-step sales cycle. In the Sales and Leadership Mastery Program, which is a 2-day program. The next one is on the 5th and 6th of April. Those of you that would be interested in doing that, 5th and 6th of April, we spend 2 days. One of the things that I do is take you step by step through that. And when you come out of that program, you would have not learned about each step. You would have done every single step in that program to take you to the side of really being able to teach. So 6 steps. You know, follow those steps. The more you want to sell, the bigger the volume that you create. The more income you want coming out the bottom of the funnel, the more you've got to create at the top. And it comes down to action. And those things are in our hands. You know, this is what I know when it comes to sales. Doesn't matter what is happening in the country. Doesn't matter what's happening to the government. Doesn't matter what is happening on commissions. You know, these things that are going on in the court and politically. Doesn't matter what's happening to the rand. If I have a phone in front of me, that is the one thing I can control. I can pick it up. I can make phone calls. What happens is we allow, because of our little boys, we allow all the other stuff to get in the way. Control what you can control. And that's one of the core things about sales. You know, sales is a really simple game. It's not easy because of all this stuff. When you get out there, you start making it happen. So, yeah, Audra, the 6-step sales process will be great. Having you back in the Sales and Leadership Mastery Program, my friend. So it'll be really good. It's a great question. So take them through that process, and remember that sales is an activity game. Business is an activity game. It's not a sit on your butt game and wait for things to happen. Great entrepreneurs create stuff. Great entrepreneurs. You know, what's the definition of an entrepreneur? Someone who organizes, operates, and assumes the risk. So can you organize what you have? Can you become a bit more organized? Can you create organization in terms of what you need to do? Can you operate? Operation is about action. What is the action that you can take to create results? You know, how many of you have heard the saying, man, that guy's a great operator. He gets out and he operates. And that's the key thing. Are you out operating? Are you out doing activity? you know, and sometimes it's the wrong activity. That's okay, you learn. But the wrong activity is better than no flipping activity. And too many people are just doing no activity because of all the little voices and all the reasons, and we can't do it. And at the end of the day, you're right, you'll allow those little voices to come true. The economy's bad, I have no money, there's no point in going out. Well, don't go out, you're going to have no money, and the economy's going to stay bad. The reality is this: I'd rather get out there, do a lot of flipping the right activity and activities and call on people and be able to sit back and go, I gave it everything I had, the economy's bad. Okay, good. In my experience, in 30 years of selling, that's never happened when I take control of me and what I can do. So, you know, this year, one of my challenges, you know, to everyone is, what can you control and get out there and get it done? You know, so I can't control the rand. Tough. I don't worry about financially and business-wise. Do I monitor the rand? Yes, I do. We import products, we sell it. Yes, I do. But I don't worry about, oh, what am I going to do? The rand's going to go down next week and whatever. I can't do anything about it. I can think about it, plan for it, have some. But the deal is, the one thing that I can do is pick up the phone. The one thing I can do is get in my car and knock on doors. The one thing I can do is run events, put people in programs. The one thing I can do is do a webinar. So we run webinars. I'm in control of this. Run the webinar. I'm not in control whether you got on the webinar or not, but I am in control whether I get on the webinar or not. I am in control of the energy that I'm going to give you. I am in control of being able to give everything I have to add value to you. I'm in control. I'm not in control of the decision you make about whether you like me or don't like me. As long as when I step off this webinar, I know that I gave everything that I could to add value to you. Does that make sense? So in sales and in business, what are you doing to really get out there and create your own results? You know, we had one of the things that we worked on a number of years ago is, you know, you're in charge of your economy. What are you doing to change your economy, not allowing the economy to dictate where you're at? So yeah, get out there and sell, create results, and you know, we talked about cash flow, we've talked about myths, we've talked about creating some language. So over the next couple of webinars, I'm going to be delving a lot more into, you know, things like the scarcity mindset and abundance, and you know, things in one of the things that I probably want to do in the next webinar is, how many of you have ever heard of a one-page strategic plan? You know, so recently I took our team through what we call a one-page strategic plan, and really it's a 3 to 5 year vision of what you want to achieve in your business in the next 3 to 5 years, brought down step by step into 1 year, brought down into what are the key things that you need, and you put it on one page. So probably, Marlon, I think maybe just thinking about it, let's do that for the next webinar, and we'll talk about that, because really that was my first question: where are you going in 2019? And if you don't have that clarity, it's very hard to go where you don't know where you really want to go. It might be stuck in your head. So I don't know about you, just maybe by a show of hands, or just type in yes. How many of you would be interested if I took you through some steps on how to create a one-page strategic plan, and then I'll give you all the online material that you can go and do your own. But I'll set the context for you on how to be able to do that. Okay, good. So Helena says, please assist in team performance and motivation. Team performance and motivation. Okay, great. So team performance. So there's a couple of key things around team performance. One is, we have a saying that says environment is greater than will. So what environment, as a leader, as a business owner, what environment are you creating that allows people to succeed? So we call it, what context are you establishing? So when we work with teams, one of the key things that we start off with is creating the right context. Now, environment is greater than will. And if you create the right environment, you will attract the right people who will perform. Motivation. People are motivated or they're not motivated. Can you motivate them? Yes. As a leader, I believe you motivate people by your actions. You go out, you create results. You lead from the front, and the right people will stand up and follow you. The wrong people, will fall away. You know, we'll yeah. So Helena, I don't know if that helps you, but creating a code of honor, creating a set of rules is essential. Why? Well, pretty simple. Results come from behaviors. Behaviors come from mindsets. Mindsets come from conditioning. Now, when you want to create results, you've got to ensure that you have the right behaviors. Sales is a behavior-driven game. I've talked about it. Pick up the phone, see people. It's all about the activities. So, what behaviors are you driving? So when you create an expectation of the right behaviors, you create the right environment to hold people to the right behaviors. You teach them and give them confidence to behave in the way they need to behave. You'll create the right results. So it comes to a number of things. Create the right environment. Equip people with the right level of knowledge. A lot of people don't have knowledge. They have information. I speak to them. Hey, I know about that, and I read that. Yeah. But they're not actually doing it, which means they're not taking it from information into knowledge. Knowledge is key. Knowledge is, you know, what are you doing to take the information that you have? That's, you know, one of the beefs that I have with the education system. It's all based around information. You know, I deal with some people that have tons of information stuck in their head, but create absolutely nothing. Yeah, but they can tell you everything about everything. Yet I also work with some entrepreneurs that they don't have tons of information, but the knowledge that they have in the area that they work in the area that they've mastered, they create unbelievable results. So what are you doing with your information? How are you turning it into knowledge? So Helena, you know, in terms of that, how are you equipping people? One of the key roles of an entrepreneur, one of the key roles of a leader is to become a teacher, to teach people. And teaching and telling are two very different things. Teach people. One of the ways you teach is by showing and doing. The other way you teach is by asking questions and getting them to come up with the answers. So yeah. So we are nearly out of time, man. You know that old saying, time goes when you're having fun. I don't know about you, but I had some fun tonight, and great having you on this call. So yeah, just those of you that are interested, we have a number of events that we run. For some of you might be interested in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be running a series of financial programs. It's an introductory program to the 10-week program that we run called Awaken Your Financial Genius. Marlon he has all your details. He'll send you the details. It's an inexpensive program. When I say inexpensive, it's probably 100 to 150 Rand. It's 3 to 3.5 hours. Either happens in a week evening in Joburg or on a Saturday morning in Joburg. And what we'll do is we take you through the fundamentals of what it is to create wealth. And you know, it's based on the teachings of Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Advisors, and really it's an introduction in pretty simply why the rich get richer and the poor and the middle class stay poor and middle class. Because let me ask you this: how many of you know that you have a genius within? How many of you know that somewhere inside of you there is this genius? How many of you know that you have a financial genius inside of you? Somewhere inside of you there's this genius wanting to get out, wanting to create something different to what. Well, I don't know. Maybe just type in me if you think you have a genius. You know, I just always knew that inside of me there was something that I wanted to get out, but I didn't really know how to get it out. And so in Awaken, we run it's a 10-module program. It's 3 hours per module over a couple of weeks, and really we delve deeply into what is it to become, you know, to awaken that financial genius, and what would it take to pull that out. So, you know, if you're interested in exploring and really learning how to really awaken that financial genius, then yeah, come and join us for our Awaken Your Financial Genius intro program. And those of you that want to learn how to sell and learn how to make more money, pretty simply why? Because sales equals income, income equals life. The better you sell, the better you earn, the better you earn, the better you live. Most people sell badly, and sadly that's the truth. One thing in common with most of the great entrepreneurs is they all sell. They can all sell. You know, the great thing about Donald Trump one of his greatest things is that man can sell. So, sales is if you want to own a business, if you want to run a business, if you want to be successful in a business, and you can't sell, sadly, you can't have a business. You've got to be able to sell. There's internal sales, external sales. Sales is the art of communicating with people. Sales is the art of finding out what people need and giving them what they want in order to solve their problems. You've got to be able to sell. And it doesn't matter where you are. You're running a network marketing business, you better be able to sell. You're running a traditional business, you better be able to sell. You want to build a family and get them to move in a certain direction, you better be able to sell. So I'll say it again, sales equals income, income equals life. We have a sales and leadership mastery program. And why leadership? Because great leaders sell. Martin Luther King, great salesman. Nelson Mandela, an unbelievable salesman. Mahatma Gandhi, an incredible salesman, and so on and so on and so on. When you talk about leaders, leaders sell. And the art of selling is also a core fundamental skill to leadership. So if you're interested in that, Marlon will send you the details. Up until then, I'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the next Entrepreneurial Hangout. If you got value out of tonight, if you enjoyed this evening, if you got value, just please do me a favor, type in the chat box value, and great having you on. Any last questions? I am going to hand over to Marlon. Let me just have a look here. One question, Barry. When can we get feedback about the application process for the financial uncovering greatness? Masala, I sent you a email, which you should have got, and confirming that you were in. Please do me a favor. Will you email Marlon, or just put your details, directly message Marlon in this, put your details down, and I will confirm with you first thing or tomorrow morning on what are the details for that program. My apologies if you didn't get it. Emailed everyone last year to say that the first Awaken Your Financial Genius program will be starting on the 18th of February. So be prepared for that, Masala. It'll be great having you on that program. So thanks, everybody. Great having you there. Great to see some of you back in the fold. Be blessed. Debbie, Helena, those of you guys in Tim, be safe. But remember this. Doesn't matter where you are, there's still business. There's still people that want to change their lives. There's still people that will have value in what you want to do. Get up. Go make a change. I know you will. Those of you in South Africa, those of you anywhere else in the world, just remember this. Your economy is determined by you. It's determined by your actions more than anything else. So get out and go take action. Marlon, over to you. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Barry. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. So we will have this recording on the website. An email will be sent out to all of you to get the recording. It'll be available for a short period of time. So yeah, we're going to be back next week because we do this in the last and first Tuesday of every month. So you'll be able to just sign up on the lead page, and you'll obviously be getting the details as you were getting them for this one. On the last note, there will be emails sent out with the details of the Awakening Financial Genius intro, or the Sales and Leadership Mastery program. So look out for that as well. Other than that, thank you very much, Barry, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you all next week. I'm just letting a couple of things come through. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.